breaking historic news today. The U.S. strikes Venezuela and captures Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. President Trump just said in a press conference that the U.S. will now run Venezuela for a time that he did not define.
Nor did he define how they were going to run Venezuela. Are they going to occupy the country? Are they going to send in U.S. troops? You know, when he was asked about how they were going to run the country, he didn't give anything close to a credible answer. Sam, who was it that said, I am not going to start wars, I am going to stop wars?
Donald Trump.
And how many wars has he started in less than a year?
Tell me.
At least half a dozen, maybe more.
Really?
Yemen, right?
Okay.
Iran, right?
I don't know if these are wars, but
these are wars. I'm sorry. These are wars. Look, you cannot whitewash this, Sam. These are military operations, killing people, involving military ordnance, bombing. What do you call them, if not wars?
I mean, they're foreign entanglements. I don't know if they're full-on wars.
They're not foreign entanglements. Foreign entanglements do not necessarily involve military operations. When you attack another country, that is an act of war. It is recognized by international law, by the Geneva Conventions. You launch a military operation against a foreign sovereign nation, that is an act of war.
Gotcha.
Good. So let me go over it again. Venezuela, Iran, Yemen, Nigeria, Syria, Somalia, and, you know, I'm probably forgetting one or two, at least half a dozen acts of war launched by this administration, when that was exactly what they were blasting the Democrats for doing. Worse yet, what else were they blasting the Democrats for doing? Social engineering, right, Sam?
Yes.
Regime change.
Yes.
Trying to run foreign countries and change them.
Well, I think he was blaming politicians in general over the last few decades,
right.
Republicans and Democrats.
Right, exactly. You know, he blamed not just Democrats, but also George W. Bush for that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. What's he doing in Venezuela? Brazenly said he was going to do it. Run
regime change.
The country.
Yeah.
Beyond regime change,
right.
Social engineering, which has been, you know, a huge target, not just for Trump, but, you know, for the modern MAGA right-wing movement. We're not going to engage in those kind of feckless foreign ventures anymore. And that's exactly what he is doing now. This could not be more in contradiction with everything that Trump claims to stand for, claims to have promised, claims to have represented.
Right.
Now, let me ask you another question.
Okay.
Who pardoned Silk Road founder Ross Ulbricht, who is convicted of creating the largest online black market for illegal drugs?
Trump.
Donald Trump. Who pardoned Baltimore drug king Garnett Gilbert Smith?
Trump.
Who pardoned former Honduran President Juan Hernandez, who was sentenced to 45 years in prison for running his country as a vast narco state and helped move at least 400 tons of cocaine into the United States?
Trump.
And moreover, according to the Washington Post, if you look at his first and second term, he has pardoned some 100 persons convicted or charged with drug-related crimes. And yet here he is justifying an attack on a sovereign nation on the grounds that Maduro is a drug dealer and Venezuela is a hub for international drugs coming into the United States.
Which isn't actually true. If you look at data published by the U.S., most fentanyl comes from Mexico, via China.
Exactly.
Venezuela is involved in cocaine trade, but it's sort of just a stop in the trafficking. Most cocaine is produced in Colombia, followed by Peru and Bolivia. So even this claim that Venezuela is this narco state is not really true, even by the government's own numbers.
Exactly. This is, more Trump fabrication. Is anything that they're doing in Venezuela going to make a dent in illegal drugs coming into the United States?
I highly doubt it.
It's incredibly unlikely
Right.
it's going to make any difference whatsoever.
The weird thing about that is, like, you can very quickly fact check all his claims about Venezuela being this massive narco state. I mean, a quick Google search will show you that they're really not even in the top.
They're nowhere
level
near the
of-
top level.
yeah.
Moreover, when he was asked, how can you, claim you're going after Maduro? You're invading a sovereign country in order to extract a drug kingpin. And I'll talk about that in a moment because that's not entirely true. But you pardoned the notorious Hernandez, one of the worst drug dealers in history. And you know what he said? He said, Hernandez was treated very badly. Very badly. He was given full due process. He was tried. He had access to lawyers. He could make all the arguments he wants. And he was sentenced to 45 years in prison. He got due process. Has Maduro gotten due process?
I believe he was indicted in the U.S.
But not convicted or
Right.
pled guilty of anything, unlike Hernandez.
Right.
And, he gives this vague general answer. He was treated badly. Totally false. The guy was proven through due process to be one of the most notorious drug dealers in the history of the world. And yet Trump pardons him, and he's not the only one. We mentioned all these other notorious drug dealers that he pardoned. And beyond that, close to 100 persons involved in the illegal drug trade. So we know that this, getting on the moral high horse of going after Maduro on the grounds of drug dealing is pure pretense. Has zero to do with what's going on in Venezuela. And I will tell you in 3 words what's really going on in Venezuela. And you know what those 3 words are going to be, Sam, right? Oil, oil, oil.
Yep. I mean, Trump even said it in his press conference. He's not even really trying to hide it, that it's about oil.
Yes. And remember, we've talked about this before on this show. When Trump was campaigning, he went to the big oil companies. He said, you finance my campaign, I'm going to let you do anything you want. This is a big payoff to the big oil companies for pouring so much money into the Trump campaign. It's, as Trump says, everything's a deal. And he made a deal with the big energy companies. Moreover, he says this is America's oil. Is that true?
I have no idea.
Absolutely not.
He was mentioning that the U.S. helped build the oil infrastructure in Venezuela.
They did build some oil infrastructure. It was expropriated. Some of it was, of course, compensated. Some of it's still in the courts. Sovereign nations have a right with compensation to appropriate infrastructure. So at minimum, he could say some of the infrastructure is ours. But none of the oil, zero of the oil is America's oil.
Gotcha.
That is a sovereign country,
Right.
and the oil belongs to the people of Venezuela, not to American energy companies, not to Donald Trump. This is, just a blatant fabrication that it is our oil. But forget, the drug charges, forget everything else. This is what it's all about. Oil, 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 and an enormous payoff to his paymasters in the big energy companies.
I mean, it feels a lot like Iraq, this idea that like, oh, we have to go after this dictator and he's really bad. And there's no doubt that these guys are bad. There's no doubt that Saddam Hussein is bad.
There's a bad dictators
right.
around the world.
There's no doubt that Maduro is bad. No one's trying to argue that Maduro isn't bad. No one's trying to argue that Maduro is an illegitimate president, right? But it's like the way that America goes about this sort of regime change, like one, it feels like the American people are just kind of sick of it. We're just kind of sick of being involved.
Trump said we were sick of it, right? And we should stop it.
And I think he resonated with a lot of Americans. Yes. I think a lot of Americans said, okay, yeah, there's bad people around the world. Should we constantly be involved in regime change and now running these countries? And Trump claimed in his press conference that it'll cost $0 because they're going to make so much money from the oil.
From stealing the oil,
that it'll offset the cost to the American taxpayer of running the country. Who knows if that's real or not.
Just like he claims foreign governments pay the tariffs.
Yeah.
Which is not true. The American companies pay the tariffs and pass it on to the American consumer.
Right. But I think just overall, Americans, yes, Maduro's bad. Saddam Hussein was bad, But again, it just seems like America's falling into the same traps it fell into in Iraq. And,
Afghanistan.
And the greed of oil is now back. We can't seem to escape this obsession with American leaders have on oil. And of course, that's just going to probably put us back generations in terms of fighting climate change. It's just a mess.
It is an absolute mess. And there's also the issue of, did Trump act lawfully?
Right. And where's Congress?
Trump says, oh, we can't consult Congress because they leak.
Ugh.
What? You're going to tear up the Constitution because you think they're going to be leaks from the Congress. Think of the enormity of that kind of assertion, that kind of grasping of unchecked presidential power. Basically, remember, this is the guy who said, I can do anything I want as president. And this is another example of Trump doing anything I want. Did he get a declaration of war from Congress?
No.
Did he even get an authorization under the War Powers Act from Congress? Nothing. Thanks for watching our video. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and become a member today.